Actually, today we have to start with me reading a message before we play the video. It seems we have a Joel Harden part 2. Jyoti Gondek, for those who don't know, Mayor, City of Calgary, personal account, she, her. Pronouns in bio is as much of a predictive measurement as syringe in bio, Ukrainian flag in bio. What are the other ones now that we have? Face mask in bio. Okay, that is her bio. That is. I'm glad she told me that her pronouns were she, her, because I'd be confused otherwise. Okay. Jyoti says this morning. This is in reference to the 1 million march across Canada on Wednesday. This morning, so-called Save Our Children, end quote, protesters swarmed my vehicle. The level of hate was chilling. It did not shake my resolve to stand with the 2S LGBTQ+. She's missing the IA. That's a sin. And their families. Calgary is a place of love and inclusion. I have Calgary jokes. I won't make them. Your hatred has no home here. She was, what did she say? Swarmed. The level of hate was chilling. It's like these idiots don't know that there are things called cameras and this thing called the internet and these things called fake hate crimes. They don't last very long, you idiots. This, at least as the best evidence to date, this is the video of Jyoti being swarmed. The hatred. The hatred. Buckle up, people. Can you believe it? I'm literally shaking in my boots. Look at this. Thumbs down? Did that guy give her the thumbs down? The thumbs down is literally an alliteration for... I was going to make a joke. Oh, let her go, guys. Let her go. Let her go. All right, light turns green. By the way, she might be the one harboring some bigotry here. I was swarmed by... There was a kid. He wasn't white. And I was so scared. She might be the one harboring some bigotry and some hatred. But they leave. And she drives off in her... I can't tell what kind of Mercedes that is. I can just tell that it's a Mercedes. You know, rich or poor, it's good to be in politics, people. Maybe Jyoti, what was her name again? Is the one harboring some inner bigotry that she was scared by that crowd. Oh boy, the level of hate was chilling. Anyhow, that's it. Okay, short intro today because we actually have a guest who I'm sure we're going to get into some Canadian politics, but he might be more or less interested in Canadian politics. All right, people. I don't know why I've fallen down the libertarian rabbit hole. Libertarians are interesting people. Everyone is an interesting person. But I've fallen down the libertarian rabbit hole, had Dave Smith on last week, went on with Troy Goldenberg on his channel, did an interview with him. I think it aired yesterday. And now we got Spike Cohen. I mean, we're going to talk libertarian stuff, but we're going to talk, just broader stuff. He was the libertarian candidate for vice president in 2020. And it's very cool to actually, having gone through the political experience at the federal level in Canada. Admittedly, I have no doubt that Spike did not think he was ever going to be the vice president, but was running nonetheless and had an experience. We're going to get into all of this. Libertarian politics, libertarian policies, why libertarians tend to be quirky people, to say the least, and what that experience was like. Viva, you're nearly... I think we're all libertarian. I just think the ones that call themselves libertarian tend to be very eccentric people. Now, let me just make sure that we're live on Rumble. We are live on vivabarneslaw.locals.com. We are. There's already some good memes in there. All right, so we're going to do the standard thing. We're going to end on YouTube sooner than later, go over to Rumble, and then come over to Locals for an after party afterwards. All right, Spike, you ready? Bringing him in. Sir.
Hey, man, how are you doing?
Good, and yourself?
I'm doing fantastic.
Now, I'm going to back this up a little bit because even your backdrop is quirky. You've got the earth and an eagle with a glow.
I don't know what you're talking. This is actually where I live, so Spike,
sorry,
I have a nice house, whatever. I don't.
So you got a multi-story house. There's going to be a lot of
Yeah.
people who don't know who you are. 30,000-foot overview for those who have no
Yes.
idea. Then we're going to get into it.
Yes, did not care what the zoning board said about maximum height. I was just going up until I was satisfied. Yeah, no, my name's Spike Cohen. As Viva said, I was the 2020 Libertarian VP candidate. Prior to that, I was I guess serial entrepreneur for the better part of 20 years. Retired from that around 2017. Decided I might get into politics. Ended up going down the rabbit hole, as you called it, and ended up running for vice president. And the rest is history. And I'm happy to be here, man.
Now, where are you from, born and raised?
So I was born in Baltimore, but I've lived in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina for 35 years, and I still live there now.
Born in Baltimore. You're 42?
41, yeah.
41. So do you have any memory of Baltimore, what it was like when you were a kid compared to what it is now?
Vaguely, I don't have a tremendous amount of memory about it because we moved here when I was just before I turned 5. So I have some vague memories. But I will say definitely anytime I go back, especially into the core city of Baltimore, I'm glad that my parents fled there. I'm very happy to have not grown up where I came from.
And what do or did your parents do?
My father is a retired Messianic Jewish rabbi. And I guess I don't know if you ever retire from that, but he's not active anymore. And my mother owns a real estate company.
All right, dude. I'm not sure that I knew that. I think if I knew that your father was a Messianic rabbi, I would have had the same thoughts I'm having now. What does that? Is he a Lubavitch or Black Hatter, or what does a Messianic rabbi mean and do?
Okay, Messianic Jews are Jews that believe that Jesus was the Messiah. So it's that's Messianic Judaism.
So the Messianic Jews are the Jews for Jesus, and I'm not saying that in any derogatory way. Is there a difference?
Jews for Jesus is I don't know if it's a sect or a branch of Messianic Judaism, but yeah, we weren't part of that, but that's what that is. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So now technically that makes Jews who believe in Jesus as the Messiah. The question is going to be, first of all, how does that happen in a family? Like, your last name is Cohen. I don't know. Are you from the Cohen line of Jews?
Yeah, we're Kohanim. Yeah.
So you're Kohanim who believe in Jesus as the Messiah. How did that happen? Like, who was the first member of your family to be the Jew that says we're going to follow Jesus as the Messiah, as opposed to, I don't know what Jews follow as the Messiah? Who do they think is the Messiah in Judaism?
They don't think he came yet. They don't think there has been a Messiah yet. It was my father. He converted and or had revelation or whatever it was, and ended up going down that and became we had services out of our home for the entire time I was growing up, and then he kind of retired from that about 10, 15 years ago, something like that. So. Yeah, I'm also not very religious now, so I'm probably not the best person to.
Someone in the chat says, "Wouldn't that just make them Christians?" Like, I don't know the distinction between religions anymore.
So there are actually some Messianic Jews who refer to themselves as first century Christians. So they refer to themselves as sort of like the original, I guess, batch of Christians, starting with the apostles, were just Jews that believed that Christ was the Messiah, and so. There are some that refer to themselves as that. It is, I guess you can say, it's a branch of Christianity.
Well, I mean, in a way, Christianity is a branch of Judaism. They originate from the same person, and I don't know. They have so many of the same principles.
They're both Abrahamic religions. Yeah.
But now, what does that look like growing up when your dad is a Messianic Jew holding services at home? Strict, not strict, tolerant. Like, what does that look like as a father?
It wasn't it might have been strict, but it didn't seem strict to me. Like there were certain programs I wasn't allowed to watch and things like that. But I think that's kind of any kind of even moderately religious home has certain things like that, I think. Yeah, I mean, it was somewhat strict, but it wasn't like there were, kids in town that I wasn't allowed to speak to or anything like that. So it was, I guess there were certain prohibitions that came with it that would probably be standard issue for any kind of even mildly religious household. But in terms of like, I couldn't talk to, non-Messianic Jews, or I couldn't talk to other types of Christians or anything like that. There was never anything like that.
And how many siblings do you have, growing up?
I have a half brother and a half sister.
Okay. All right. Now, Spike. Okay. So you're 41 years old. You're raised
Yes.
in Myrtle Beach. Dad's a Messianic Jew. Your mother did what again, or does what?
She owns a real estate company.
All right. And your upbringing is standard childhood, public school, private school?
A mix of public school and homeschooling, and a combination of frustration with the quality of public schooling, and a few times that I was a disciplinary problem, and that homeschooling was an alternative to to what they were proposing if I wasn't being homeschooled. So it was kind of a mix of the two. And I will say this. I'm glad for the friendships that I had that I got from, being in public schooling, but I would learn inside of a few months of homeschool. Every time I would go from homeschooling back to public schooling, I would wait the better part of a year or so for the class curriculum to catch up to what I had been learning the previous grade. Like it would be like, I'd be like 2 grades ahead of what everyone else was learning. And my classes usually took, like the day of school usually took the better part of maybe 2-3 hours. So I always found homeschooling to be, and I'm still a very big advocate of homeschooling because I saw the stark difference. When my parents were in a position to be able to homeschool me, the difference it wasn't even comparable. It was so much better.
And when you say you were getting into trouble in public school.
Yes.
Well, I say this. It's interesting just in terms of understanding who grows up to be a libertarian, free-minded, challenging
the kind
authority.
of kid that gets in trouble in school. Yeah,
it's like challenging authority as a kid makes you a problem, pain in the ass. And
Oh,
makes
right
you
off the bat.
Did you get kicked out of school or threatened?
I got told that we had to come up with an alternative to my getting kicked out of school because of the consequences that come from that, right? Like there's things that go on your record and there can be disciplinary issues and things like that, as opposed to just, how about your kid goes and gets homeschooled now? And that was pretty much how that was handled.
That was one of my experiences in one high school. They said, look, if you just choose to leave, we'll help you get into the next high school. But if you don't, we won't. Do you remember what you did that was the straw that broke the camel's back on that particular occasion?
Yeah, so I've never pled guilty or admitted to anything, and South Carolina has no statute of limitations on any crime. So what I'm going to say is everything I'm referring to is in Minecraft. None of this it was all in Minecraft.
All right. You know what? I'm not going to ask anymore. All right, Spike. So childhood. What do you study in university?
I didn't go to college. I started my first business when I was 16. My parents used to have. It was a website design company. So what I originally, my parents used to, during the summer, my parents would say, listen, if you want we'll take care of your basic needs, but if you want spending money, go get a job. This was highly illegal. But it was child labor laws I'm breaking. So I don't think they can arrest me for violating my own child labor laws. But so I would go and I would work doing stuff like bussing tables, washing dishes, nothing too intense. And it was cool. I got to make money. I got to learn the value of networking. The wait staff that liked me would tip me out and stuff like that. And so it was like, I learned a lot of things. But one of the things I learned was I didn't want to work for someone else. And I would be doing something like bussing tables, washing dishes, doing landscaping, something like that. And I'd be doing it next to someone who was 2 or 3 times my age, making maybe a little bit more than I was making, but I was making it under the table. So after taxes, I was probably making the same thing they were. And I thought, I don't want to do this for the rest of my life. And so at 16, I started learning how, I got a laptop, learned how to use the different software, and started going out and peddling my wares.
And this is in 1999. So this is right when, give or take, right when the internet was kind of taken off, but becoming mainstream for everybody. I think I got my first email address in 96.
Yeah. So this would have been early 99, right before, like a few months before my 17th birthday. Put it this way, my first few customers, when I would go to them and I'd say, hey, would you like a website for your business? Their first question would be, what is a website? Like that's how early on it was. Or they'd say, I've heard of a website, but why would I need that? I'm not some big company. I don't do any technology stuff. I don't do any computer stuff. I'm just a restaurant. I'm just a real estate company. I'm just an insurance company. I'm just a, whatever landscaping company, whatever business they were in. And so the first few that I just made them for free just to build up a portfolio and to show the value of it. Very early on, I saw that it was more important to make sure that it was ranking highly on the search engines than the actual website itself. The website was basically just a digital brochure. It was more important that if someone was searching for something, that they could find that business over everyone else. And that's when it kind of took off.
What was the search engine back then? Was it Netscape? Was there something called Netscape back in the 90s? I don't remember what that was. What were the search engines back then?
So it was, oh gosh, man, a Netcrawler was one of them. Yeah, there was Netcrawler. There was, I do think Netscape had their own. It's crazy because starting in the early 2000s, basically when Google came in, nothing else mattered anymore. You'd still do stuff. Yahoo kind of abandoned their algorithm very early on and stuff. It just sort of became Google for the longest time. But yeah, there was that was definitely one of them. Netscape had, I don't remember if they had their own. I know there was Web Crawler.
I remember the word. I remember the words web crawler, but I had like most people, no interest in the internet. And Netscape was a browser, says the chat.
Yeah, Netscape was a browser. Yeah.
But now, so you don't go to university, and this web design business which picks up, and is it lucrative enough that you say I'm not going to go to university, or was it never the plan to go to university? And then the follow-up question is, did your parents freak out when you decide not to go to university?
No, because their whole thing was, listen, just be successful. Like, be successful and be happy. If it's running businesses, fine. We don't have to cover your university. In fact, I actually had a full ride Duke scholarship because of my SAT performance in the 7th grade, but I never pulled it because I was like, I don't want to go to school. Like, I'd rather not spend anywhere from 4 to 8 years before I can actually go out in the real world and start making money. I don't even want to wait till I'm 18 to start doing that. I want to start making money now. So by the time I'm in my 20s, I have my own home and I'm starting to develop into, what can be a multi-million or maybe one day a multi-billion-dollar business. I didn't quite get there. MS got me before that. But all that to say, like, I wanted to make money and be independent. So I know it's shocking to hear that I'm a libertarian, but the idea of being in school for 4 to 8 years when I wasn't, if I wanted to be a doctor or a lawyer or something like that, obviously then you have to do it. But like when I was hearing what my friends were looking into getting into, I'm like, I don't want to do any of that stuff. Like, I don't want to go to a liberal arts college and the getting into like a trade school or something. If you want to be a plumber, you want to be a mechanic, those are all very necessary things. That wasn't anything I wanted to do. I wanted to find a business that I could do myself until I was in a position to scale it and make a lot of money from it. So that's what I did.
And I have a joke that the difference between a Messianic Jewish father and a secular Jewish father is one says, you're going to university, you're going to get an undergrad, you're going to go to law school, and you cannot live without a university degree or two.
Yes.
I'm tongue in cheek. And hold on, because I know when I'm being made fun of. Uncle PJ says, what's your favorite color? Did your grandfather like rose? Was your aunt in a book club? Good questions. We're gonna find out.
I'm not gonna stand for this kind of gotcha journalism. No, my favorite color is depending on the day, either black or blue. And
black is not a color, sir.
Okay, wow.
It is the absence of color. All right, that was a joke. What we're gonna do, by the way, right now is come on over to Rumble. I'm gonna end this on YouTube, and then we'll continue this. It changes.
This is what YouTube gets.
YouTube gets the intro, and now we're gonna get into the politics, and YouTube gets nothing. YouTube is the vessel to drive traffic.